Madam Mayor, you are live and recording. You may begin whenever you wish.
Wonderful. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Welcome everyone to our regular council meeting for May 6th. Just remind everyone that the meeting itself is being recorded and live streamed to the Township's YouTube channel. Of course, we do have participants joining us from both within the chambers and from online. So just to be aware of that. And of course, as is always the case, council, please raise your hands and I'll call on you if you're looking to speak on a matter. So we'll begin with calling the roll by Deputy Mayor Nelson.
Present.
We can have Councillor Watt.
Present.
Councillor Johnston.
Present.
Councillor Vervoort.
Present.
Hello, and of course myself, Mayor Heather Watson. And on the staff side, we have our CAO, Todd Davis.
Present.
CDO, John Helen.
Present.
Our treasurer is, I'm looking down the list, but our treasurer is here maybe, but coming on Zoom or a little later if needed. And seeing with our public works manager, and then we have our legislative services assistant and human, Heather, President.
Martinez.
Oh. And our, sorry. Clerk and deputy CAO, Martinez.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
That's fine.
Quorum of council in attendance, I will call the meeting to order, starting with the land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the lands which are part of the 1818 Treaty 20 and the traditional territory of the Initiative Bands of the Great Ojibwe Nation. We offer our gratitude to the Ojibwe for their care and knowledge of the lands on which we work, live, and enjoy. May we honor and respect their teaching and our treaty obligations as we grow together. And with that, we will move to a moment of silent reflection, please. Moving on to our agenda, council. Of course, it was distributed to all of you in advance. I've not received any disclosure of pecuniary interest, but if there is anything that's come up, is there anything to declare? Seeing nothing, a motion then just to adopt the agenda today. We have Councillor Report, second by Councillor Watt, all in favor. And that motion carries. Thank you. Adoption, or pardon me, the business arising from the minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes before us from our special council meeting on January 10th. And our special council meeting from April 15th and regular council meeting from April 15th. Madam Clerk, I'm just seeing there's a housekeeping item here on the January 10th item. Can you speak to that one, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. The special minutes from January 10th, 2023 have been received and reviewed by council in a closed session meeting. Council had provided approval of those minutes during that closed session, but those public meeting minutes never came out in open session to get a formal approval. So as a housekeeping item, we're doing that today because we want these minutes to be approved by council in open session. And this just cleans up this matter.
Okay, thank you for that. So council, looking for some motions on those minutes. Councillor Johnston, seconded by Deputy Mayor Nelson. Any discussion on that? All in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. We have 4 items on consent. Is there any item that council would like to hold for discussion at a later point in the meeting? Seeing nothing, just looking for a motion then to receive those. Councillor Watt, second by Councillor Report, all in favor? And that motion carries. On to delegations, petitions, and presentations, and we have a delegation request from David Scott with the Birchcliff Property Owners Association. Mr. Scott, the lectern is yours. You have 10 minutes for the delegation, and whenever you're ready.
Thank you for accepting my request for delegation today. My name is David Scott. I'm representing the Birchcliff Property Owners Association. This membership includes residents from Birchcliff Road, Birchview Road, Bryson Road, Fiddler's Lane, Fisher Avenue, Tetra Lane, and Third Line. I'm also a full-time resident at 918 Birchview Road. I'm also a professional engineer with 40 years experience in municipal infrastructure, and half that time spent running my own firm, which specialized in sewers, roads, water mains, water treatment, sewage treatment, stormwater management, traffic studies, traffic management, works of that nature. The issue I'm here to discuss with you today is one of safety, and specifically road safety on Birchview Road. That's safety pedestrians, safety to cyclists, as well as motorists who utilize this roadway. Now, this issue is not a new one. Maybe the first time that I've appeared in front of you to discuss it, but BPOA has approached staff or council to discuss the Birchview Road safety concerns in the past. And it certainly is one of the greatest concerns expressed by residents to the BPOA board over the years. And that concern includes excessive speeding witnessed on the Birchview Road. And many residents don't feel safe walking and cycling on the road as a result. I know Township councils have heard these concerns. Councillor Watt and Councillor Johnson have attended our AGM meeting both last year as well as AGMs from previous years. We definitely appreciate their attendance and participation. Yeah, at each AGM, we always sort of hear the same complaints from our membership. So it's they're not complaints that we as a board can follow. And I know these complaints haven't fallen on deaf ears. The township as well as the OPP have undertaken some works related to Birchview Road safety. Township has a mobile radar speed display sign, which it uses throughout the township, and has certainly posted this sign, utilizes a sign on Birchview Road. I think the last time it was installed in Birchview was for a 1 or 2 week period in fall of 2023. The OPP also have what's called a black cat speed monitoring device, which is like a black box. It's kind of non-visible to the public. It gets mounted and it records traffic volume, traffic speeds, and if I'm told correctly, that was last installed in on Birchview in August of 2021 for 9 days. So there have been certainly some efforts to not only notify the public, but also to understand kind of the speed and vehicle volumes when they're coming on in Birchview. Township also conducted a speed limit review study for Birchview Road in 2021. This study was awarded to an engineering firm by the name of Dean Wills, who did a lot of work in the Peterborough area. Very competent professional firm, which good my firm. And they conduct an investigation on Birchview in 2 sections. One section is from Highway 28 to Fiddler's Lane. The second section is from Fiddler's Lane to McCracker's Landing. And I'm just going to highlight a couple key points from this study. Just a few quotes. During the visit, Wills observed active pedestrian and cyclist movements, especially to the east of Fiddler's Lane. West of Fiddler's Lane, the road environment's clearly rural. No surprise there. For the purpose of the study and on our engineering judgment, a section of Birchview Road, Fiddler's Lane, that's from Fiddler's Lane to McCracker's Landing, is considered an urban section due to the high driveway density when compared to the other section west of Fiddler's Lane. So that's interesting. And then it was recommended that the speed limit for the first section remain as is, at 60 kilometers an hour. The speed limit of the second section should be lowered to 40 kilometers an hour. So that particular element, it speaks to the potential for road safety issues on Birchview. And the report was on to cite reasons for the recommendations. I'm not here to reopen the town's speed limit review report or to advocate for lower speeds on Birchview Road. I'm not here to question the town's response to that study. nor to express in my professional opinion that we have a built speed problem on Birchwood Road. At least not yet. What I am here to convey is that despite the works undertaken to date by the township and the OPP, our BPOA 2024 membership survey, so survey done last year, identified that of all the issues faced by a lake-focused community, issues such as lake stewardship, invasive species, fish habitat, blue green algae, short-term rentals, rising water levels, power outages, rural internet, all important issues. Road safety was still identified as the #1 issue that they'd like the BPOA forward to address. Now, road safety concerns don't always stem from the old speed, acknowledge that. Road safety concerns also arise from distracted drivers and impaired drivers, road conditions such as road geometry and sight lines. Some of these are complex items and expensive to address. But the issue of speed, or the perceived issue of such, is something that the BPOA membership thought was something that they could help address. And not by complaining, but by putting some its own time and money into it. So the BPO board, as a result, has approved a work plan which involves the BPOA purchase and operation of a radar display sign, installation specifically within the Birchwood Road roadway, subject, of course, to approval of the township, which is voluntary. And the purpose of the radar speed display sign is really twofold. Involves both data collection as well as driver awareness. And the current signs available are capable of addressing both those desires. And so what's our approach? Kind of see it as two-stage approach, kind of short term. So for 1 year, we would be subject to the township's approval. We'd like to put a radar sign out at various locations on this county. So one sign will move around to different locations. And the purpose of the data collection stage will be determined if in fact there is a vehicle speed issue along Birchwood. And this would allow BPOA to communicate the study results to its membership with a high level of confidence. And also, should the data identify specific locations along Birchwood Road where vehicle speeds are more prevalent, the data can be used by BPOA and in concert with the township to lobby OPP for enforcement in these specific areas. On an interim basis, a battery operated unit will be moved around, placed in strategic locations. We'd likely be looking at mounting it on one of the existing 60-kilometer limit signs, if that's agreeable with the Public Works Department. And we're probably looking at 5 locations in each direction. And that would allow us to collect 2 weeks of data in each location from essentially June to November periods. And that would be a fair level of data collection. And we could collect data beyond that if desired. But beyond that, we look at that being as more of a permanent installations rather than moving around 10 different spots. We identify a permanent spot for it, but we then have the sign act as a beacon, the sign which provides feedback to the drivers, the non-static sort of feedback. The location of this permanent sign location hasn't been determined. It might make sense to locate it in that transition between the rural and urban section of Birchwood, or the data from the data component study may place in a certain direction where it makes more sense. So that's to be determined. So what is our ask? Our ask is for the township to grant permission to BPOA to install a radar speed display sign within the Birchwood right away. And we ask for council direction to entrust and direct municipal staff to work with BPOA to determine the best location and installation approach, both the interim and the permanent radar speed display sign location. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Do they have any questions you have?
Certainly. Council, any questions of our presenter, Councillor Johnston?
Yeah, thanks for presenting that. I must say, I sit here a little embarrassed that we haven't done a little bit more helping this out. Speed is a big concern, especially when people walk around. But unfortunately, speed is everywhere. But I do appreciate the fact that summertime, there's a lot of people walking around and biking and that. And we do have a sign and we are moving it around. The last meeting that Tom and I were at, we went to the old super and told that everyone at different spots and you can find it, put it in out your work. But anyways, for what you've undertaken, I totally support you. And all I can say is thanks that you have gone ahead and doing something better yourselves. And I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnston. Any further questions or comments? Deputy Mayor.
Through the chair, thanks Dave for your presentation. Sorry about my voice here. But anyways, no, thanks a lot for the presentation. I totally support that the BPOA wants to purchase these signs or the speed boards. I'm totally in support of that. I do have one caveat though to it. And the problem is liability with BPO members out on our road. That's not gonna happen. I would look for actually and the data from that. That's like us handing over all kinds of stuff, all kinds of liabilities on, and I'm sure you can understand, you can appreciate that being in the business, and that is not something that I don't believe the township wants to do with the BPOA, but we would certainly look at sharing that information with the BPOA and under staff's recommendations, and I think we need to, like you say, need to include the staff to get that information, share it with council and share them with the BPOA as far as, but I believe that information is solely on the township. I believe that. So that's my comments on it, and I would support that the BPOA purchase them and with staff. So my recommendation, I'll make a motion after if whenever we get to that, but that's my concerns is who's in authority of that information. So that's my comment.
Mr. Scott, do you have any comments on that question just before I open it up to other questions?
Yeah, certainly I understand, township's concern, with regard to sort of data and information. Certainly the township retains consultants, engineers, other parties all the time to undertake works within the municipality within those regulations. We're offering to assist in this regard. As an engineer, I could be retained to do that work at no cost to the municipality. And obviously that work would be any data that's collected would be the ownership of the municipality, so we could do it that way. We're just trying to help and not make this an exercise that that taxes the town staff and township staff. We're looking at wanting to move this around in five locations in each direction, so 10 different locations every few weeks. And we're willing to help in that process. So if that helps in that regard, then that's where I was suggesting.
Madam Mayor, sorry if I might cover through the chair. And that's great, but I just look at the liability. You as a company, when you come into, you have to provide insurance and all of that stuff that goes along with that. I'd hate, heaven forbid, I'd hate for somebody, a member of the BPOA, to be out there doing a speed board sign and they get hit and killed, and that we have that liability then. So there's certainly some stuff there to definitely talk about, that's for sure, in my opinion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other questions, Councilor Watt?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Thanks very much, David. And I appreciate the response that great I come to the meeting. And yeah, I don't think I've ever missed a BPO meeting since I've been on council. I always get invited and I appreciate that very much. And yes, speed, like Councilor Johnson said, speed's an issue on every road we got. I fully support the BPO getting these signs and work with the staff here to iron out the details that Deputy Mayor has brought forward so that we, you know, that we're all covered for safety and liability and everything else, because nowadays liability is everything. Only other point that I'd like to make, and I'm not saying this, I mean, one of the BPO members, since I've been on council, which is like 18 years now, came to us one time and the person had a friend that was a police officer, so they bought a radar gun for Saturday morning from 8 to 12, still on Birchview Road, and we're doing, you know, the radar thing like that. And he came back to council, and I'm not gonna mention the name, but I mean, this is legit, it's probably in one of the minutes somewhere. He came back and he apologized to council. He said that probably in his estimate, 60, 65, if I remember correctly, % of the speeders that he had that morning were people that lived on the road. So he said, we have to start educating our own people on the road to what we're doing, stuff like that. And I just bring that up because I think it's come up at a Birch Cliff meeting before, but I would love to see it come up at your next meeting on the agenda saying, you know, hey, we're gonna take this agenda on. We want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and you know, you don't need to get to your cottage 2 minutes earlier coming or your permanent home. I would just like to see everybody along that road on the same page that has that education that, hey, we all have, it starts at home. That was his words. Our education starts at home. I would just like to bring that forward, but thank you very much for bringing this forward.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions before I weigh in from council? Nothing? Thank you, Mr. Scott, for your presentation. I echo the sentiment that speed is a concern. Safety of any of our residents, regardless of what road, are always a concern, of course. I think perhaps a way forward is, of course, with council's permission and Deputy Mayor, I know you've got a motion coming up, but having you work with our staff to figure out what that looks like. I know last year, our manager of public works met with your president then, Mr. Miskin. I don't know if he's still your current president. And these conversations kind of started, and I believe, just as a point of clarification in the report, there was, I believe, the mobile sign, maybe not the black hat, was deployed in 2024 as well in working with Mr. Miskin and our public works manager. So there might be some additional data to help form, you know, further findings. I'm curious about the ongoing operating maintenance, storage. Who's handling that? Like, how does the BPOA see that, the relationship of you purchasing the item, the sign, and then deploying it? Because I think we've got to iron out that, and as well as the data, you know, access to the data, and is it anonymized, and how, you know, it is anonymous, but you know, how that's kept secure and private for residents. So has there been any thought on what do we do with the sign after November, and where is it going, and maintenance costs ongoing?
So as far as after November, we're anticipating an installation of the sign in a permanent location. And whether that's a sign that's owned by BPOA or it's a sign that's then turned over to municipality, those are discussions that we can certainly have. We were envisioning if it was owned by BPOA, we would maintain it and operate it and use electronic signs, and they do occasionally require, you know, maintenance. Certainly, you know, as far as data goes, there's a downloading, you know, there's an exercise of downloading the information and assembling it and displaying it for consumption. So there's definitely some time involved in it. BPO is prepared to put that time in. But likewise, if the township would prefer to own that sign at the end of the day, because it's going to be permanently on their location and their right of way, we're open to that, and we can talk about how we can assist them in maintenance as well. Yeah, we have,
Haven't ironed out those details yet,
Yeah.
but there's a willingness there, it sounds like, and I appreciate that, and I think that makes sense then for next steps. Would be for our manager of public works to sit down and see what, you know, what you're willing and capable of doing, what we can do within the parameters of, you know, managing liability and privacy and what have you, so. So again, thank you for your willingness to do this and work with the township on this, and I'll turn it to council for a motion, Deputy Mayor.
Sure, through the chair, I'd be willing to make a motion that we accept the offer from the BPOA for the signs, but have staff meet with Dave or whoever that might be on the BPOA and come up with a solution to the data, the storage, all of that stuff that we've talked about. I don't know how to put that all in words, but anyways, all that stuff that we talked about and bring a staff report back to council for the final, so that we can actually approve that final negotiations with the BPOA on the ski boards.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Madam Clerk, do you have the essence of that? Yes. Does anyone want to second that motion?
I'll second the motion.
Councillor Johnston?
And
So-
just one comment on the motion. I'm all for it. Total favor of what you should do it. But like I say, we need to work with our roads department to do it the proper way. And all I can say is that if we want to have this meeting with you yourself or whoever in the roads department, I think that we should do it sooner than later before the cottagers get out here. And not just them, but the construction time and everything else. So all I'm making the comment is that I'd like to see it done sooner than later.
Any other discussion on the motion? Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Scott. Okay, also on the agenda today, we had a delegation for ice storm response and cleanup efforts. Unfortunately, the individual has sent last minute regrets. So we'll be moving on to staff reports. So we have item 10.1, report and capital project status. Council, are there any questions on that report? And if there's nothing, I'd just be looking for a motion to receive it. Councilor Watt, motion? Councilor Vervoort is seconding to receive that. Any discussion? All in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. On to item 10.2, discretionary sewage system maintenance inspection program. And I will turn that over to Mr. Hellman. Sir.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Okay. Still a long one. I'll do my best to get through it as quickly as you can, but be thorough. So good evening, council. You can. Okay. My apologies, maybe some shuffling between. Good evening, council. Before you use report 2025-02. In its regard to the discretionary sewage system maintenance inspection program. This report identifies 4 items that staff are seeking further direction on, as well as 1 item that's just for information purposes that would be brought forward at another council meeting. And I'll touch on that in a little bit. As part of resolution 426-2024, council requested a change to the affected areas of the discretionary sewage system maintenance inspection program. The program was to be amended to include, to be amended from including all properties within the township that created sanitary sewage to just encompassing high-risk waterfront and high-density township or high-density areas. Township staff, along with the support from county staff, have created schedules, part of my report and as an attachment to the report, created schedules A through Q that highlight these specific areas. In schedule A through E, we have highlighted what we believe, or what that meets the definition within the township zoning bylaw of property abutting a water body. So the definition we found within our township zoning bylaw includes Dummer Lake, Stony Lake, Clear Lake, and Catchaway. But it does indicate that it doesn't include any artificially constructed drainage or irrigation channels or natural water course. So that these schedules A through E, we believe capture the water bodies and what we believe is council's intent for high risk waterfront areas. There's a few more, I'll get to them in time. The high density areas, again, we've went through with the county staff and mapping, and we've looked at these as hamlet designations, and they are schedules F through K. They include Donwood, Douro, Warsaw, Falls Glen, Cottesloe, and Douro-Dummer. And in the tables within my report, you'll see the property numbers that are affected by the program. The remaining schedules, L through Q, are some areas that we need direction on all areas, but these ones we weren't 100% clear if it was what council intended, so we wanted to bring them forward separately. If we looked at schedules L, M, N, and O, which is the Ouse River, the Indian River North and South, and the Otonabee River, they are defined in our township's zoning bylaw as recognized navigable waterways. And so again, we feel that they may have met the definition of high-risk waterfront, but wanted to make sure. And then the last two that we have, which is schedules P and Q, is an enclave within Douro 8 line and one just off of County Road 4, which is Lawnsbury and Caves Road, where we see they're not contained in the official plan mapping for hamlet designation, but we do see a density within those areas. So we wanted to bring that forward. So that is one of the requests that we have, is further direction on if we could identify by schedule letter which ones council would like to include within the discretionary sewage system maintenance inspection program. Item 2 in my report is pertains to the voluntary inspection program. Again, resolution 426-2024 asks that staff look into a voluntary inspection program. Excuse me, the voluntary inspection program is feasible. We are proposing that the fee structure be the same as the discretionary program. We would like to again highlight that there are private sector firms locally operated companies that do complete this type of work. And we just, again, wanted to think about the optics of competing with local business and the potential of increased risk being absorbed by the township. But it is something that we feel we can do, and we do see the fee being the same as the discretionary program. Item 3 within my report is program fees. Again, these fees are for information purposes. This isn't something at this time that council can approve. We do need to host a public meeting anytime that there is an amendment to fees within our building bylaw. But again, we felt that not only had council requested this information, but I think it's prudent to bring it up now to give an understanding of what the fee structure would look like to help council make their decisions. We have the fee structure for type 1 and 2 fees are staying the same under the current program. So a type 1 fee is our base fee. The type 2 is an additional fee charged when the property owner either requires a second inspection or doesn't complete some of the tasks that are required of them on the initial one. So whether that's the completion of our questionnaire, uncovering the tank lids, something like that. And so that's a fee that's additional to that. Excuse me, we are proposing 2 additional fees that aren't currently in our building bylaw. One is the report review fee, and this is for third-party inspection report. So again, as I alluded to in my section number 2, which is the voluntary inspection program, there are local firms that would do this type of work. And so part of the discretionary sewage system maintenance inspection program allows the property owner to hire their third party rather than have the township conduct the inspection ourselves. And if they do that, they would provide a form to the township, and it's a Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing form, and they would provide it to us, and we would review that to make sure that they're in compliance with the program. And so that review, we have a fee that we're proposing of $50. And then we also have an action letter fee. And this is when there is action that the homeowner or property owner needs to do as part of our inspection that we've uncovered. And so it's more to an administration fee as we take the time to kind of bundle this up and get them further information on what their next steps are. we can see in my report, I have covered, we did this on a cost recovery basis. Once we calculated what our fee would need to be for total cost recovery, we then did a fee comparison against additional municipalities who have operated this program. Some of the information in my report here is just that Trent Lakes is the only other township within the county of Peterborough who's completed the sewage system maintenance inspection program, the discretionary one, sorry. And that their fee was PPH administered that program, and their fee to the municipality was $325 to complete the inspections. If we look just outside our borders, and we look into Haliburton County, we can see that a lot, or if not all of the townships within that county, municipalities within that county, have at one time had this program. Not all still currently do. We can see that the fee range from $180 to $250. And again, the fees I'm registering here or talking about here are base fees. So that's comparable to our $235. They also all had additional fees for either non-compliance or additional work to be performed. Excuse me. Item 4 within my report is our inspection cycle. We're proposing a 10-year inspection cycle. So that means that we take the quantity of properties, schedules A through Q that council identifies that they want covered, and we divvy them up as equally as we can to spread them out over 10 years. This will allow our department to plan for that work. For instance, if we were to say, well, we'll take them all and complete them within 3 years, we have to ramp our services up for those 3 years, let it sit dormant for argumentatively 7, and then back up for the following 3. So we're proposing that it gets spread over a 10-year cycle. And last is my item number 5, which is our educational program. We've reached out to third party to get some estimates on that, and our anticipation, our proposal would be to produce a pamphlet that would get mailed out to the property owners that we believe, or sorry, to all property owners. We would like to couple it with our tax bill. However, there are challenges with that. So if I could, council, we've put in budget on that. My apologies, it's not in front of me, but I know the budget is in the $10,000 mark. I just don't maybe see it right in my report, and I apologize if I have missed that.
I think it's around $8,000 I saw somewhere.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you, Council and Deputy Mayor. So the anticipated cost for this program is between $8,000 and $10,000. The high range of that is if we're unable to couple it with tax billing, we expect it to come a little bit under that dollar amount if we can get it together with tax billing. There's just challenges within how we send out our tax information and where that and how we're heading in that. So with some of the unknowns, we just wanted to make sure that we were fully covered in our budgeting. So this would be a one-page pamphlet. We then digitize that and get it on the website as well, so it's available to all parties. I guess that's all I have for now, unless there's further questions on this.
Thank you, Mr. Hellman. I'm sure there's a lot of questions, and I know that you've presented a lot of information here. You've numbered them 5 different items. I've numbered them A through F, which may be confusing because we've got other A through whatever on the schedules. But council, if we can try and channel the conversation around those topic clusters that are identified in the report, I think might be a good way through this. So first, addressing the inspection areas and having some questions on that, and then working our way through voluntary inspection cycles and so on. And then we can kind of go through that process if that's okay with Mr. Hellman and council is comfortable with that, to keep us moving along a good line. So on the schedules, inspection areas, any questions, Mr. Hellman, on that? Councillor Vervoort or Councillor Johnston, both of you have half hands. I don't know, rock, paper, scissors this there. Councillor Vervoort.
Thank you through you, Mayor Watson. Thank you, Dawn, very much for the presentation. This is, I think, what council was exactly looking for at the time when we discussed this originally. Just based on the numbers that you've provided there in the various schedules, clearly there are quite a few properties in the township, and looking to do all of them would be a pretty onerous task. I think looking at the first set of schedules, A through E, it feels like it's something that's very much in line with the original intent of the discussion that we had. Those are high risk properties along water courses, or bodies of water, pardon me, that do have the most potential for negative impacts. So so thank you very much for the detailed work there. I'll pass it over to Councillor Johnson now for his comments.
Thank you, Councillor. Just to keep council on, we're looking at questions at this point in time. We can have comments when we have a motion on the floor, just to keep things flowing properly. Councillor Johnson, any questions? No questions? Any questions on the schedules at all? Councillor Johnson?
Fee schedule?
No, sorry, my apologies, the inspection areas. Section one.
Yes, as a comment, not a question, but comment, as was said earlier, I'm in favor of A to E. The rest of it at this stage, I'm not prepared to engage our inspections further than A to E at this point.
Okay, so if there's no more questions specifically on the inspection areas, are there any questions on the voluntary inspection program? So this is outside, so this, Mr. Holland, just to clarify, the voluntary inspection program, what you're recommending that we not do are people who are outside of the inspection areas who may just want to have an arm's length inspection done on their system. Is that correct?
That is correct, Madam Mayor. If I could, we will do the work of council. I'm sorry if it came across that that my recommendation is not to do it. I'm not by any means combative with council. If it's the wish of council, we'll do it. It was just highlighting the idea that we do have local firms.
Understood. Thank you for clarification. I put words in your mouth on that. So on the voluntary inspection program, any questions on the voluntary inspection program? Seeing no questions. Program fees. Councillor Johnston, you had a question on the fees, it sounded like.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would like to see the fee. It's just to pick a number of the years, not fair to me or you or anybody else, but where we got 235, that's what I guess we were charged before. I would rather not see that down to $200. And where the second one being 225 for if someone doesn't comply and they have to go back for the second inspection, I would rather see that down to 150. Just my comment. I haven't seen the breakup that we need more money than that, but anyways, that's what I'd like to see.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on program fees? I will ask a question on this one. Mr. Holland, can you give me an example where we would, outside of this program in building department, charge a fee to write a letter mandating action?
Yes, Madam Mayor, if it's reasonable, it'd be like an order to comply. When we write an order to comply, we charge $225 for that order, and that's letting someone know that there's an action that they need to do. We do have fees. That fee is a similar fee in our building department that would be to provide a notice of final inspection for a permit that's already been closed through PPH. So the fee is on the lower end of one of our building department fees, which would be just providing a letter, versus when we issue a letter in order to comply or something like that, we would see the fee of $225 or above, depending on the type of order.
And that increased fee, the $225 or above, is that because it needs additional legal consultation, or what justifies that higher expense?
On the order to comply, it's the amount of time that we take to research an order. It captures the initial research that goes into it, the issuance of the letter, the follow-up that goes with it. It's an administrative, burden is a really bad word, I'm sorry, but there's a lot that goes, when we do write an order, there's a lot that goes into them administratively, and then as well technically,
Right.
just to make sure we're.
So proportionately, the amount of administration that would be going into an action letter detailing the remedial action is less onerous.
At this time, we anticipate that.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? That's a great like council. Any other questions?
I'm sorry if I may, Councillor Johnson. I appreciate the concern on feed value. If I could, I only want to make sure that we're fully transparent. So if I could, the current fee that we have is that was in our building bylaw was $175 dollars. I believe. Sorry, I was wondering, it's either 150 or 175 per inspection. I do want to correct that it isn't currently 200. So we are lower. So we are seeking an increase. If I may, to Mayor and Council, I think we all know the challenges that have been within this program. And one of the things that we're committed to do with the fees is to look at them. We believe that a 2-year cycle and then a fee amendment if needed. And if the required fee, if the fee can come down, then we're happy to do that. We're not a business. We're not here to make money. We're here at full cost recovery. So this is an anticipated fee at this time. Having the program only truly run 1 year and having a lack of historical data for us on true cost to administer the program, this is our proposed cost recovery. So there is a chance that it does come down. And at this time, if we were to set the fee lower, I think that through our tracking, potentially, and potentially this is where the treasurer would help me with this, is I think that may be something then that would need to be borne by the levy if there's a deficiency in that when we track it, if we reduce that fee. And it's just kind of more thought process on fee structure, and we are committed to a 2-year cycle. It's a discussion I've had with the treasurer to really monitor our time and what this program takes from us as a department, and then make sure that we put an adequate fee towards it. So this is just a theoretical exercise at this time as we lack historical data.
Thank you. Any other question on the fees from council? Seeing nothing, let's go on to section 4, the inspection cycle, where the department's recommending a 10-year inspection cycle. Any questions on that? Any questions? Educational program. Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, the educational program, like sending a piece of paper out in our tax bill or whatever. Now, people that really want to know about things, well, to me, that's not good enough. I think we need to have a public meeting. And explain to people, we're not here to discuss whether or not we're gonna do this. This is to tell you, what we're looking for and how you can make things better for yourself. Okay, this is an education that they need to see pictures, they need to see and talk to professional people of what they can, what they put down their, into their septic tank. And what they can do to stabilize it. I mean, it's an education, and just one piece of paper, I don't think works. I would like to see a public meeting and therefore the public to educate, ask questions on their subject. Not to have fighting and saying that, we're against it and all that. That's not the intent. The intent is to educate people where they can prolong their subject. So I personally would like to see what you're doing in paper, that's fine, but I would still like to see a public meeting.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Hellman, just reading between the lines here, I wonder if Councillor Johnston, the public meeting that you're looking for is for any of the affected properties, because that's just for clarification, because I read the report and think the education program is for all residents, whether they're getting inspected or not, who have a septic system, to teach them or show them best practices on how to maintain and operate that system so that it becomes healthy. Is that what the intent is of the education program that you've outlined?
Correct, Madam Mayor. We for the entire township. And it's some do's and don'ts and things that people sometimes don't consider about with the use of their septic.
Okay, and Councillor Johnston, what you're proposing, or what I think you'd like to see is
Anybody and everybody.
anybody and everybody around the septic inspection program,
Well,
or just manage.
Program is, lower scale, the way I see it, but this is, the education is for everybody for managing their septic.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Any other questions? CIO Davis.
It's not a question, but through the mayor to council and, sort of on behalf of the building department, what I think Councilor Johnson is talking about is a workshop. And not and the reason I suggest we use something like that in terms of language is when we talk about public meeting, should we move on with this program? And we'll have to have a public meeting, that is a different beast altogether. That is a meeting where people and members of the public come forward and voice their support or dissent towards this type of a program. Whereas if we had an annual workshop or open house related to being a good septic steward or whatever, that is, I think, really what you're trying to get to the bottom of. And I think that that's something that, you know, we would go away and think about what that looks like and what kind of expertise we would bring to the table for that piece. But certainly, I've seen it done before in a different context for different things, but it's certainly manageable and it's an opportunity. We have to be prepared that we could have a workshop, we could put effort and energy into it, and we might see very limited numbers of people. But I also believe that if we build it, they will come eventually.
Mr. Holland, did you have something to add?
No, it's like, yeah.
Yeah. That's all right.
Agree, Madam Mayor. Yeah, and to proceed on that, through our CAO, it may be more than one, like you may want one up at the lakes, you may want one in Douro, you may want one in Morse, you may want one in Downland, you may want 3 or 4 or 5 different locations or even if it is once a year, move to a different location each time, but I could see us having, you know, even a couple of year in different locations to try and catch the cottage people, catch the, you know, you're probably not gonna have one here in town hall in Warsaw and get a whole lot of people, like you say, but if you hit the different areas, but you know, an hour session, hour and a half session, you might be a lot more successful.
Thank you for that. Deputy Mayor.
Sorry, through the chair, Don, in your report here, you talk about qualified other party, third party. Is that a licensed installer? Is that who you're meaning?
Through the mayor, to deputy mayor, it is, so they would have to be they would have to carry a building code identification number or be a professional engineer. So both of them would have the ability to sign off on the form. That would be a qualified third party to do the work.
Licensed installer?
Sorry, yes, I apologize, yes,
Okay,
licensed installer.
thank you.
Going back to the education program. Any other questions on that? Councilor Johnston?
I just want to make a comment. I agree with what Tom said, and like has been said, this is all through the chair. I never mentioned what Tom, and glad to see you here today. But anyways, I agree with what Tom said, that a workshop and done in different areas. Would be, I think, be a lot better than trying to have it here. By all means, I think you get a lot more support and people are coming to. Thank you.
Thank you. I will add a couple of questions on the education program. I echo the sentiment of my colleagues once again. I think a one and done brochure is an expensive way to reach people and doesn't have the longevity. Maybe even ideally, we could record the presentation, as you had mentioned, just like with a one-page mail out to be, you know, saved on the township website. We could probably record, if it's just one speaker, to do a how-to and what have you, and perhaps even offer an online option via Zoom or Teams or otherwise, so that people who are not necessarily in the community at the time for whatever reason can participate as well. Has there been any thought on an education program beyond a mailer? I guess would be, because I feel like there's a lot of other options that could be explored, and an $8,000 to $10,000 price tag, even to spend that kind of money, and I'm reluctant on that dollar value, but to spend $8,000 to $10,000, it could be applied so much more effectively and broad if we look at other formats. So signage available, you know, in our transfer stations or social media website, some of the ideas that were discussed today. So has there been any additional thought beyond one-time mailer?
It's the only thing that our department looked at was that one-time mailer to go out, with the tax bill. The workshop, didn't cross our mind for, but, definitely something that I think we do have the Ontario On-Site Wastewater Association located right in, Peterborough. And so that would be a fantastic resource, and we can reach out to them. We also, typically you'll get installers or at least manufacturers, that can come in and talk about them as well. So doing that, I think, did not cross our minds, but again, something that we may find easier to manage. I would suggest that I believe it needs to be a third party run workshop, as the building department is more regulator than installer educator. We do our best and we know what we can look for, but they're with it every day on failed systems, on installation, and they'll be a great resource.
Certainly, I appreciate that context. I think, similar to how municipalities, our neighboring municipalities have partnered with the OPP to do, cyber security awareness, fraud kind of information sessions. I think that it would be value not just for our residents, but probably residents outside of the area who are also on septic systems and might be willing to make the drive to Warsaw or Donwood or wherever that may be. So I think it would be worthwhile for other alternatives from an education model to be considered, whether it's with or within the parameters of the $8,000 to $10,000 costing that you have prepared in your report. Okay, any other questions on the macro before we start talking about what we want to do with this report? Okay, so I'm gonna open up to council then to perhaps entertain a motion or discuss. I know Councillor Johnston, you've mentioned council report areas, inspection areas. Where do you want to go with this, folks?
Yeah, through the chair, I would like to make a motion that we receive the report with thanks, and then also that we engage staff to do the paperwork for schedule for A to E on our form here. And also the fee for those ones be $200 and $150 for the second inspection. And the report for the review and action letter stay as reported.
Okay, Councillor Johnson, I don't think I can accept the second part of your motion about the fee, because that actually would need to come back to council at a public meeting at a later date. So I think the motion that we'll be looking for is just the area that you're referencing, A through E. They're also going to be looking for some discretion or some direction rather on the voluntary inspections if you want to take a crack at that. Otherwise, another member of council could take a look at that. And the inspection cycle of 10 years that's being recommended. So
You want to kind of put that on the same workshop?
or we can do them line by line. If we want to just start with the schedules, the inspection area, let's do that. So to recap then, your motion is that we have staff, or that we look at employing or deploying the discretionary program in schedules A through E, which are the waterfront properties specifically. Okay, does anyone want to second that motion? Councilor Vervoort. Do we have a motion that's been made and duly seconded? Now I will take any discussion on the motion. Councilor Deputy Mayor Nelson.
I have one question through you, Madam Mayor. Was the motion not made at the council meeting when we passed this, or when we discussed this before, that all of the high volume areas were also to be inspected? I believe that was in the motion. So Donwood, everything that from F to K, I believe was talked about in that motion that was passed. I believe that they were also in that area as well. So why are we leaving them out?
Sure, so just to clarify, Deputy Mayor, the motion itself is in the report, on page 1, and it says that, the crux of it is that the program be limited to high-risk waterfront and high-density areas with a voluntary service option available for the remainder of the township. And that staff prepare a report on implementing a user fee system to include funding for an educational program as part of the levy. So
So Dunwood is not included in that?
I'm just restating the motion for clarity, but that was made. So, you know, we did say high-density residential.
So that's my question, I guess.
Yeah.
Is how come they are being excluded?
Yeah, well,
No,
Councillor Johnson made the
to the
motion.
chair, what I had said on the motion is that we would do the high risk waterfront now. And only that now, and we would look at the other, in the future, meeting.
So not include, sorry, to the chair, so not included in the 10-year program, or whatever that is, not included?
Is A to E.
You,
That's my motion.
pardon me,
My motion is A to E.
but it's different than what the motion was originally. It is different.
Yeah. It is different, from the original motion, but the motion can still be made.
True.
Yeah.
But it's not hitting them high density areas
No,
like Warsaw.
No.
Which in my under my estimation, that's what was the motion that was made previous.
So we do have a motion that's on the floor right now, that's just looking at schedules A through E, the high density areas. Further let me see here, F through K, which is Donwood and down to Douro-Dummer. But then there's also L through Q, which are, some of those smaller high density residential areas. Are not for discussion with the motion that we have right now. But certainly other motions can be made about adding areas and discussion around that as well. Deputy Mayor, I'll leave that to your discretion. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor? And that motion carries for A through E. So what else would council like to do with this report? Well,
Or just make
we're
a
just
quick
taking
section.
motions at this point in time, so Councillor Watt.
If I may, through you, Madam Mayor, it was always my intent, and I'm just speaking for myself here, that we go through, and that was when we were doing the whole township. 10-year cycle, do the whole township once, we're gonna hopefully catch 95% or more of the problem once we got. And then that was it. I never had an intent in my life of going through, you know, after the 10 years was up, going through again. And I would still like to stick with that. I'd like to make a motion that we just go through the process once. And then, you know, maybe 20 years down the road, we have to do it again, but I don't see myself doing it over and over again. So my motion is to just do it once through the 10-year cycle, and that's it.
Okay, so we already have a motion to do A through E,
Yes,
and that's been approved.
that's fine, yeah.
So are you looking to add F through Q or the entire township?
No, I'm just, like, for the ones that are approved now, because that's the ones that are approved.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure if you wanted to.
10-year cycle, and then that's it, and let them have future 10 years down the road, if they decide they want to do it again, that's fine, but I don't want to see it right now, another 10 years come up and do it again. I would like to do the 10-year cycle, and that's it for now. That's it, it's ended.
Okay,
Review it.
And it could be reviewed, then yes.
okay, so A through E once in the 10 years is effectively what that motion is, just so I understand. Okay, so that's your motion.
That's my motion.
Anyone want to second that motion? I've got Councilmember Ward.
Can
Yeah, discussion on the motion.
What the motion's going to say.
So the motion that's on the floor right now is that the program run for 1 10-year cycle.
Okay, so that's been,
I'll second that motion.
it's already been seconded by
Yeah,
Councilmember
okay.
Ward. It's okay.
I have a question
Of
on the
course.
motion.
Yep.
With that amount of properties, it wouldn't take no 10 years to get it done, would it? You figure to do it in 2 years, wouldn't it? With that amount of properties.
Mr. Holman?
Through the chair, pardon me? Yeah. The previous program had approximately 400 properties every year that we anticipated to do. So if we looked at that, I think that we would look at this and say potentially 3 years would get us through that. As the program narrows, and if we look to, don't want to overcomplicate things, if we look to narrow the program and accelerate the timeline, it is something that the department could look to a third party to complete the inspections. And again, I only look at work cycle. Whereas if we ramp up for those 3 years, it's what do we do to ramp up and then cool off for the balance to get 1,200 done in a year? It's just making sure that we're appropriate.
No,
No,
I'm not suggesting that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying with that amount of properties, why would it take 10 years? We were gonna do the whole township in 10 years, so how can we not? How can we possibly say it's gonna take 10 years to do that amount of property?
Deputy Mayor, I don't think that the intent of the motion was that we would take 10 years to do it.
Okay,
It's that we would do it once.
One cycle.
right, I'm in
Sorry.
favor of that. Sorry.
One cycle, but
Yeah.
that's, yeah,
Right.
if that's okay, I would amend my thing to one cycle through and then
Yeah, well, 2 years.
revisit it after that.
Well, whatever the schedule might be, it's fine, but it's not gonna take 10 years, it shouldn't take 10 years to do it.
All right, so the verbiage of 10 year will not be in the motion, that would just
One
mean going
cycle.
for that once.
I appreciate that.
And perhaps have it re-reviewed in 10 years, is that what you're
Yes,
going?
yeah, it'll come up
Have it all be reviewed in 10 years time.
for future council's discretion.
Sure.
I can't say 10 years, somebody else might not want that, and next council may want something different.
Okay. Is that okay with the motion?
That's one.
I was gonna say, because if you are, could you please read it to me?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I just have a question about the review piece that you just mentioned. Is the review to happen at the 10-year mark, or is the review to happen whenever a future council wishes to review?
I think when future council wishes to review it, because that's not our call, what a future council wants to do.
So, through them, in that case, the resolution is that the program run for one cycle and that it be reviewed by a future council when they desire.
That's fine with me.
Okay, and Councillor Vervoort, you seconded that original motion. Are you comfortable with that amendment?
Through you, Mayor Watson, yes, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further discussion on the motion? I'll call for the vote, all in favor? And that carries. So that takes care of the inspection cycle. Councillor Watt?
I'd like to make another motion, please, because it was brought up with the voluntary inspection program. If someone voluntarily wants to get theirs done, I would make the motion that they engage a third party and not. We'll have enough on our plate with the township, so engage a third party for voluntary.
And not for the township.
Yes.
Okay, does anyone want to second that? Councillor Johnston, any discussion on the motion to not engage in a voluntary inspection program? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? And that motion carries. Last but not least, are we going to look at the education component and give some direction to staff on the education program? Councillor Vervoort.
Thank you, Mayor Watson, through you. Based on the comments earlier, I would like to make a motion that that staff go back and look at workshop options that would be available, in-person workshops and not any one-page mailings that were discussed in the report.
Okay, does anyone want to second that motion?
Councillor,
Councillor Johnston, any discussion on the motion? Councillor Watt?
Through you, Madam Mayor, absolutely, you know, and as was discussed before, we can get third-party people that are made to do, you know, that have the education and the credentials to do this. And not just have one, like maybe have 2 or 3 through the year, in different areas to try and capture the whole township, but this is for the whole township, not just the 5 areas that we're looking at. This is to cover everyone in the township on how we're good stewards on their septic system.
That's my belief. I see Councilor Report nodding that that's the intent of the motion.
Definitely
Yeah. Thank you.
available for any resident.
Thank you. And, sorry, Councilor Johnston, you seconded that, correct? Yeah, okay. Any other discussion on the motion? I'll just add, I think the education program is key here. Not just for those in the discretionary program area, or the mandatory program area for that matter, that are in the source water protection area that we're not talking about this evening, but also for the rest of the community. I think the $8,000 to $10,000 is a really loaded number, particularly if you were planning on putting in tax bills. I don't know how we were planning on printing them and the graphic design to it, but a 1-pager print costs shouldn't encroach on $8,000 for the number of text bills that we send out, but I think that there's other ways that staff could be looking at, not just to Councilor Vervoort's point, not just with the workshops. I'd like to see a recorded one, and I know Councilor Vervoort, you said in-person workshops. I think having a recorded option that can live on our website in perpetuity, as long as the information is still relevant and, you know, not outdated to any new code updates or anything like that. But certainly having, I support having staff come back and with something a little bit more robust than a 1-pager. Okay, all in favor? And that motion carries. Did it? Sorry. Yeah. Okay, any other discussion or motions on this report, Councillor Watt?
Just a question, and to you, Madam Mayor, Dawn, you said that this has to be a public meeting for fees and stuff like that. How soon does that happen? Like, we can't even start this program till we actually see what's going on, how it's going on, why it's going on, what fees are going to be. What's your best case on that, of putting something together that's going to be brought to the public?
Madam Mayor, excuse me, we would anticipate, the public meeting is for any changes to the fees within the building bylaw. This program is covered under the building bylaw, needs to be a public meeting. We would anticipate it in probably 2 council cycles. So not the next one, but the one after, just by the time we get our fee structure together. There's some other building fees that we'll probably get into that, just so that whenever we touch the building bylaw, that'd be a good time to kind of do it. So we'd see 2 council cycles.
Councillor Watt?
Thank you, Chief Mayor. And do we anticipate this being like just a separate public meeting, not part of a council meeting? Because you know that this program, you don't know how it's going to explode or not explode, or how many people, and I don't want to tie a council meeting up for 2 hours for a public meeting and like that.
Mr. Holland?
Through the chair, we do typically link our public meetings through into the council, into a council meeting. Again, prudent, because people, whether they speak in support, I do want to clarify, this public meeting is not about support for the program. It's just the fee structure at this time, or any changes that we put in the building up. I think that it would be, council would want to hear the concern. And so as council attends, I'm not trying to speak outside my lane, but it is a council meeting. And so I think getting it into a regularly scheduled council meeting, making sure that people understand when when township does business. So usually coupling with that is something that we would do, unless council would like us to do another time.
Any other questions? I'll just follow up on the timing of this. Mr. Holland, I don't want to make assumptions, but assuming you anticipate actually going and beginning those inspections be pushed over into 2026.
Till we decide on the inspection cycle, I wouldn't want to comment on that, but I would say that typically, right now, I would see that pushing it to 2026 as the start date may be a good thing. We do have our mandatory inspection happening right now, so we're already into sewage system maintenance inspections on the mandatory side. So then allowing this to get the program get built. There's information that we want to bring to council about. So it's not only the forms that we have, but what you can expect. We want you to see, which you've already seen, but we want to see you to see the questionnaire. We want you to see some of the things and how the program itself is going to operate. And so though we can get the fee structure put together, then it'll give us time to really help council understand and the public understand what this program is really gonna look like, what they wanna get that in front of council so they understand the full scope of the program. And so in order to do that, and I think really have to do this program justice, potentially putting the discretionary start date into 2026 would be advisable, having already doing our mandatories in 25.
Okay, so we would expect to see in 2 council cycles, a report in terms of the fee structure. And then assuming that's approved, a subsequent report would come forward that outlines effectively the work plan on how it's going to be implemented. Whether by zone or, and what that communication correspondence looks like, is that correct?
That is our anticipation right now. There, as we work through the actual cycle for how many inspections we can do a year, we may have to modify some of that as far as it's a program that we need to look at. How many can we do every year and what does that take? And then once we know that, then we can start to also look at cost. So to marry those two, we may need to blend that, but we would like nothing more than in 2 cycles to bring you the program. But we could definitely update it on
CEO James.
To the chair, members of the council, I appreciate the CBO's zeal for this. I feel like we made that maybe just slightly aggressive. Certainly happy to have a conversation about fees in 2 cycles if possible. But I also would be most comfortable. I recognize that if we look at the number of council meeting cycles we have between now and the summer break, after today, there are 3 more meetings. I don't want to put us in a position where we're really up against a summer break, and I don't anticipate or working hard to not have a bunch of special council meetings this year as best I can. I recognize we had a busy year last year. So our commitment is to try and get it to you as soon as possible. I want to be realistic and suggest that may happen after the summer break. Certainly we may have fees in front of you before the summer break, but we would probably have a sort of a robust overview of what that system, what that program looks like. Probably at the end of the summer, which would then give you the opportunity to give us direction to move forward or not on it and or how we move forward with this, and then we can budget for it for 2026.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, Councillor Johnston, before we move on to the next item.
To the chair, I got one question for Don. Don, for the ones you're doing right now, what kind of a certificate or whatever are they getting now? What?
Madam Mayor, they do not receive a certificate. Sorry, they have a certificate right now. We will amend the certificate that they get. So it's we, as the township, we need to limit the liability. So our inspection is only really good for the day in which we inspected it. And under the scope in which we inspected it. And so they do receive, it's a 1-page inspection certificate that just says they have had it. That one though, honestly, it's not a voluntary program. That one is legislated. We have to do it. So the certificate, the reporting actually happens to the province. Like we have to report to the province that we do these inspections and what the outcome of them are. The homeowner gets it as kind of information purpose, but it's this one even if we didn't do a certificate for them, the reporting comes to the province.
One more question related to that. Is it, what has the province said? How often we got to do it? Have they said anything like that?
Through the chair, every 5 years.
Okay, no more questions on that. I think we've got all the motions made that we need to on that item. So let's move on to the next report, which is also CBO, to appoint a designate CBO. Mr. Hellman, back over to you.
Thank you, council. I'd like to just, if I could, first off start with apologies to the mayor, to council, and to the public, those in attendance and those watching. It was just recently brought to my attention just before the meeting that I had an old title on my report It was something that I was anticipating was to appoint a designated CBO. And in reality, in this report, I'm only requesting additional inspectors be appointed. So I appreciate that the title in the report has caused some confusion, and and it's misleading, and I apologize for that. In my report 2025-05, the idea behind it, the gist of this report is that given during the year and certain projects that we have, some of the projects that we do can only be done by myself, and that can be sometimes legislated that the chief building official must carry out that, and sometimes it's based on qualification. And so when we look at our staff as a whole, there are certain qualifications that we don't have in-house, save and except for myself. And we currently have some applications in front of us that would take my dedicated time to review and issue the permit. Given the current workload, as we transition with our hiring of a new planner, with our permitting that's there, and our enforcement files, in order to meet our legislative timelines, my request is to appoint additional inspectors, which fall under a third-party consultant, RSM Consulting, and it's their staff members that would do the review and issuance of the permits. This is something that's built into our building department budget, is third-party review. We've utilized it a few years ago as well. And so this again is just taking these inspectors and making it that they can do the work. Currently, there's one, it was for one project only at this time was when I wrote the report. We did receive another project today that would require again. So just when I look at my timeline, it may be something that again, we'll reach out to them for. They cost it for us first, so we understand where we're at. But it is something that we've allocated in our budget already and did anticipate that it may happen. This is just formalizing who could potentially do it. I think if there's any, I'm happy to answer any questions. I think I've hopefully covered off the basis of this.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Councilor Johnson.
To the chair, I'm going to follow the recommendation that we would require the services from the RSM consultants. I just don't want to see another building inspector. For what's going on right now, the construction and everything is very, very slow, I'm sure. So I just don't want to see another full-time guy person. But to someone fulfilling for your qualifications to do what you do, I'm not in favor of that. I'll make them.
Okay, Councilor, I had a question. I'll come back to you to formally take that motion and get a seconder on that. But I did have a question on the report, just for clarification before we go into motion discussions. So with respect to the consultant, Mr. Holland, we've worked with these people in the past, you've mentioned, like, or we've worked with consultants in the past, but not RSM.
Correct, Mayor. We have had third parties complete plans review for the department. We haven't used, we did look into RSM on another project, and just their timelines and ours couldn't match up with the legislative timeline. So we always reach out to them first to make sure that it is something A, that they can take on, and B, that their costing is. This is what their company does. So we haven't used them yet, but they're well known within the industry and are linked very well within cloud permits. So it's a seamless operation for our applicant. They do nothing extra. This company would get they get access through cloud as an authority, and then can work the project.
Understood. Can you explain why this wouldn't be going to an RFQ or RFP or tender process?
I think given the value of the contract that we anticipate, and also the timelines. So this would be, these are one-offs. They're trusted. We have a good working relationship. They do a lot of training within the OBOA as well. And so they come highly recommended. We know what we would get from them. And as I say, it is a seamless transition through cloud. So it's something that we just feel would helps our applicant it helps us and meet our legislative timeline and helps our applicant have really just seamless review and issuance of their permit. And so I think if we went to an RFQ, the concern I would have is can we make it as seamless and for the minimal amount of times you do anticipate using it.
Okay, I still have questions on this because I feel like this could be a slippery slope potentially. So we are going to give effectively a dedicated service through this third party to one or two specific files. How are we managing scope creep? So not necessarily with those specific files, but even just in your report summary today, you're talking about, you know, your current workload, everything's going on respectfully. You had one submission and then all of a sudden one just came in today. So you're going to probably be tacking that on. So where's the end to, you know, the budget allocation of $6,500 before you tack on another and tack on another, because it is seamless or it is easy. And next thing you know, we're either getting outside of that budget allowance and we're, you know, in for a penny, in for a pound, right? And we have to keep going because they're midway through these files, or like how do we control that? So that it's not fully an extension of the building department and that it is for these one or two or maybe three files.
Madam Mayor, if I understand the question correct, so they do quote the job for us ahead of time, so we wouldn't see a creep on any particular project. They know what they know what the project is, and they know that their goal is to issue the permit. Argumentatively, they aren't included in inspections or anything like that, though it is something that consultant does. I think that where like I say, it is built into our budget already. It's anticipated cost that can help us get through the cycle that sometimes the building department sees. I think as we monitor it, I guess we wouldn't go outside of our budget. I guess because it's an approved budget. So every quote that we get, we would know whether we're meeting our budget and staying within it. And then I think that the last time that we used a service similar to this, if I'm not mistaken, was 2023. And so given how rare it is, if we saw it starting to be something that we utilize more, then that is something that the building department will manage on either, you know, we consistently work towards professional development with our staff, but making sure that maybe this is something that needs to be accelerated for them, that they can take on this type of work. And then again, with that, appointment of a deputy CDO is something, but again, our current staff wouldn't typically meet the qualifications of a deputy. And so again, we push professional development. I think that's where we'd see ourselves. If this is a service that we find ourselves frequently using, I don't think it's a service. I think it's a rare service that we use. And again, we didn't see it in 2024, and it's creeping up now. And again, I put a little bit of that just to some of the change in staff that we've had in other departments, and just the workload that I'm going to say myself that I had to take on. And so this gets us meeting our legislative timeline, and then you know, the goal would be to be back to normal.
Okay, I want to stress, I'm not against bringing in outside resources to support the work of the department and making sure that we are obviously meeting our legislative responsibilities, and particularly, you know, in the busy building season, it also aligns with, you know, people's summer holidays, and having that backup is important. Not to mention filling that skill gap, which may be lacking on particular builds within our own department. We can leverage their skills. What I do have a concern about is how we arrive at choosing a particular third party, whomever that may be. And where, you know, right now, great, you won't come to you won't go outside of your budget, or if you do, you'll come to council and ask for more budget funds. I understand. However, what happens for 2026 budget and 2027? And then like this starts kind of rolling into, you know, this particular provider getting thousands of dollars in additional contract, and there's never been a public process. So when you tell me, like, I'm somewhat assured when you say it's a rare service, but I'm still not convinced that we have a very public open process where other private businesses can potentially weigh in on this down the road. Right, and without any kind of RFQ process in place, and these are the people, we're lacking that. So, just my comments on how we got to where we are, and hopefully you can assure us, or myself, that we're not going to be looking at a 2026 budget with, you know, a $20,000 line, and oh, we're just going to use these people because this is the firm that we've always used. And that's what I mean by scope creep. It's the scope of the entire contract that we have with them, not on the individual projects that they're working on. Okay, Councillor Johnston, you made a motion.
Yeah, I think I did, yes.
Madam Clerk, do you just want to read that back so we're all on the same page, please?
Absolutely. So the motion that Councillor Johnson made is that report dated May 6, 2025, regarding the appointment of a designate. In the report, it says CBO, but as Dawn mentioned earlier, it's actually building inspector, so we'll ensure that wording is correct. Be received that council direct the current chief building official to utilize the services of RSM consultants for the issuance of building permits when required, and that the required bylaw be approved.
Okay. Councillor Johnson?
Yeah, that's what I said. I want to add one thing.
Eloquently.
That we don't go outside the budget.
And does anyone want to second that motion? Councillor Report? Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. On to item 10.4, procurement update. CEO Davis, are you doing that in lieu of our treasurer this evening?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through the Mayor and Council, I'm going to introduce today's report on behalf of the Treasurer. This is really a procurement update for your information, or for information report in some direction. So we have the outcome of 2 of our procurements listed in this report. First and foremost, we went forward with a road needs study to procure a consultant to do the work on that. The budget was $30,000. We had a total of 7 suppliers registered. 2 bids came in. The bid for Engage Engineering comes in at $25,000, which is $5,000 under budget, and that's the recommended organization that we assign that work to. And then the second procurement is for the surface treatment program. This procurement was done or issued through joint tender that included the county and all participating or any participating lower tier municipalities, including our township. We received 4 submissions, so the county received 4 submissions. As you can see, all of the roads are laid out in the report. The outcome or the response to that tender is we see actually $121,141.72 of savings based on what we budgeted versus what the quotes were. And so the recommended outcome is to assign that or to award that surface treatment program to Dufferin Construction. With confidence that all the vendors that the successful vendors will complete the work as required, and we ask that council follow the recommendation as assigned within. Happy to take any questions you may have.
Very much. Council, any questions? Councillor Report.
Thank you, Mayor Watson. Through you, not a question, but I would like to make a motion that we receive the report and award the surface treatment contract to Dufferin Construction.
And the road needs study?
And that
one. It doesn't need to be. Sorry, my apologies. I didn't read the recommendations in front of my face. Thank you, Councillor Report. Councillor Johnson will second that. Any discussion? Councillor Watt?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. So the extra $121,000, when we were doing our budget, we had to, make some changes on a couple things, drop a couple things like that. Is that something that, the closer we get to what the actuals are going to be, because this is probably pretty close, but you never know, we always have incidentals here and there, that we can have a report back from staff, maybe saying, hey, we have this extra money, we can do these couple of projects now or get them on the go, please and thank you.
Chair Davis?
Through the mayor to Councilor Watt, absolutely, I believe we have scheduled a financial report coming forward at some time, certainly prior to the summer break, as to where we stand, actual versus budget. What I would, and I agree, you know, certainly something that we could reconsider if we have extra money or at least reserve those funds, if that is the case. However, what I would point out is that we just had a substantial state of emergency in this community and expended a substantial amount of money. And I recognize that we will be vying for, to recoup those dollars as best we can, when we can, from higher levels of government. However, should those, should we be unsuccessful or have some costs bore to us, that's where I would anticipate we would take some of those money right now and put that into that. So while I know it's not an incidental related to surface treatment, it certainly is an incidental related to the 2025 budget.
Councilor Watt?
But in all reality, it's still the roads department. The roads department had a lot of expense trying to get all this brush cleaned up, so like that. So it's still an expense within the road department as far as I'm concerned.
All right. I believe we have a motion on the floor. Seeing no other discussion, all in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. On to bylaw to license, regulate, and govern mobile canteens, and that's with Ms. Monday.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to present the clerk's office 2025-04 report dated May 6, 2025 regarding the mobile canteen in the Township of Douro-Dummer and the adoption of the draft bylaw attached with this report. The purpose of the bylaw is to provide a clear guideline for the operation of the mobile canteens, and it focuses on ensuring public health, safety, fire safety, noise control while supporting the local businesses and special events. The key objective of this bylaw is the public health and safety ensures the food preparation service practice are safe. The fire safety and liability requires the compliance to fire safety protocols and liability insurance. The noise and the nuisance control designated operational area addresses waste management. Applicant will bear the cost of compliance, including application fees and the penalties. The application process will be, the mobile canteen operators must submit an application including the complete form, health unit approval, fire chief approval, CBO approval, and the proof of compliance with PSSA. Public work approval for traffic and parking impact for special events within the township. The enforcement and the penalties for this bylaw will be the license will be issued by the clerk's office. The violation, including any false information, will result in the penalty under the Provincial Offence Act. Unpaid penalty may be added to the property tax account if it individual within the township. Otherwise, the matter will be handled in accordance with our collection policy. So the staff recommendation that the bylaw be adopted at the appropriate point of the meeting.
Thank you very much. Any questions from council regarding the report? Councillor Johnston.
Just to say thanks to the chair, thanks for the report, and that we'll deal with this at the proper time.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? So just looking for a motion then to receive the report, and then we'll deal with the bylaw at the end. We've got to still receive. Councillor Johnston, Councillor Reward, are you making that motion also? Are you seconding that?
I will second that.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? That motion carries. Thank you. On to item 10.6, non-recyclable waste collection contract extension. CAO Davis, over to you.
Good evening to the mayor and council. Happy to present my report related to the contract extension for our non-recyclable waste collection program. As you are all aware, Peterborough County has been going through a process related to uploading garbage and organics to or through the Peterborough County Waste Department. That was presented, the final report was presented in January 2025, and in the final report, that did receive approval. The county has moved forward with a request for proposal for county-led co-collection of garbage and organics. Our township is one of the townships that's included in the RFP process at this time. That RFP is currently out for procurement with anticipation. It closes at the end of May. And I believe that there'll be some reports coming through both the county council and to our own community after that, probably in the fall of 2025. The challenge we have as a township is that our contract for garbage collection ends on June 30th of this year. And so to get out in front of that, one of the things that we were required to do or in order to facilitate the county work was to extend our contract to at least 2027. So we've been in conversation with Waste Connections, our current provider, to extend that contract. We were able to negotiate the contract termination of December 31st, 2026. We believe, while we recognize there's a economic increase, we haven't changed the program in any form or fashion. That kept it as simple as possible, keeps our contracts as simple as possible. And I believe we bought some flexibility so that we aren't bound into 27. We have the opportunity to move month to month should we have some challenges. I will say confidently that the county procurement, I think, has gone well. There's been 7 plan takers, all of the big garbage collection companies in Southern Ontario have taken or participating. I'm not sure we'll get bids from all of them, but that's a strong starting point. And I would say confidently that our township will have the opportunity to make a decision prior to the end of this year, which would then give us some opportunity of how we would react beyond that. So my recommendation is that we extend the contract until as per the report, and then recognize that we'll have a lot more conversation around garbage in the fall.
Thank you.
Happy to take any questions you may have.
Any questions from council of the CAO on this report? Want to do motion?
Oh.
So you look like you were gonna say something.
Oh, no questions. Through the chair, I'd like to make a motion that we receive the report and with thanks, and looking forward to seeing all the numbers come back. So a huge possible change, or maybe not. It's hard to say, but we'll definitely be having the numbers and presentations from county staff in the very near future, or in this fall.
Thank you, Deputy.
Pardon me?
The motion is to extend.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor's got the context of sitting on the Waste Management Committee with the county, so absolutely, and thank you for those words. Councillor Watts going to second that. Any discussion on the motion? Oh. Yes, go ahead, MCA.
I failed to mention at the beginning of my presentation, I recognize that this kind of work would normally fall on the manager of public works. I offered and stepped up to take on this report for you tonight, recognizing that he's been incredibly busy over the last 4 weeks, helping us recover from the ice storm. And so it's not that Jake didn't want to do this work or wasn't capable of it. It's more that it's just a matter of managing our time.
Thank you for that. Any discussion? All in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. Okay, council, we're going to do a little bit of an agenda dance. Just if we can move item 13.1, which is the bylaw on the license to regulate and govern mobile canteens, the one that Anu just presented. We just want to move that up for discussion and approval so that she can go home and enjoy her evening. Councillor Watt will make that motion. I see Councillor Vervoort, you're seconding that. Any
Yes, please.
discussion on the motion? All in favor, and that motion carries. Thank you very much.
Good night.
On to item number 11, we've got committee minutes and other reports. 2 sets here, committee of the whole meeting minutes from April 16th And also, we should do these separately, right? So let's start with the committee of the whole meeting minutes, just a motion to receive and approve those. Councillor Johnston, seconded by Deputy Mayor Nelson, all in favor? And that motion carries. On to 11.2. On the municipal road allowances policy and procedure that our policy intern clerk's office worked on for us and presented at committee of the whole. So we just need a motion to receive and approve the policy and procedure per direction from committee of the whole. Councillor Watt.
With thanks, yes.
With
Great
thanks.
job.
Wonderful. Councillor Report, you're seconding that.
Yes, please.
Any discussion? All in favor? And that carries. Under correspondence 12.1, we have letters from various municipalities, all of which effectively say the same thing as it relates to opposition to proposed amendments to OREG 530/22 for expanding strong mayor's powers. What would you like to do with that? Deputy Mayor?
Through the chair, I'd like to make motion to accept and support.
Receive and support.
I'll second that.
Councillor Johnson will second that. Any discussion? Councillor Watts?
Yes, fully in favor of what these towns have done. Like I've never really had a whole lot of confidence in having given mayors that much power. Sorry, not that you got it, Kanye, but I never thought that was a democratic way that, you know, that our province, you know, our country should work like that. So fully in favor of this, to support these, and you know, if they're looking for more letters of support, I'd be willing to do that at a future meeting.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? I will weigh in as the mayor. I'm glad that you are all, that the motion is to receive and support. I agree. I don't know where things are going with the strong mayor's powers in the future and what that looks like, but it's certainly something that that I don't take lightly and wouldn't necessarily want to enter into immediately. So on that, all in favor? And that motion carries. We have a 12.2 taxpayers from the Ministry of Environmental Conservation and Parks, or MECP, as we so lovingly call, regarding a conservation land proposal in Halliburton. What would you like to do? Councilor Report.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Watson. Through you, I would like to make a motion to receive this.
Okay. Anyone want to second that motion?
I'll second it.
Deputy Mayor, any discussion?
Yeah, I think, you know, like, what has been said is, you know, that's looking ahead. But right now, it's managed by the Ministry of Natural Resources, and I've got to respect that. And they say they did not proceed with this request. So, I mean, I support that for that reason.
Okay, so right now we just have a motion to receive on the floor. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor? And that motion carries. On to 12.3 Township of Larder Lake support resolution from the town of Fort Francis regarding sovereignty of Canada. Councilor Report.
Thank you, Mayor Watson. Through you, I'd like to make a motion to receive this.
Okay, motion to receive. Does anyone want to second that? Councilor Watt? Okay.
Thank you, through Madam Mayor. Reading it over, and I know things have changed now so well, but there's still references here, little
Justin?
son, Justin, as the prime minister, which is not correct. So I think receiving is fine, but it's hard to support something that isn't really correct.
Okay. So we have a motion to receive on the floor that's been seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor? That motion carries. On to Township, a little bit more close. Township of Tonabee South Monaghan proposal to end daylight saving time in Ontario. What would you like to do with it? Councillor Report? Sorry, had his hand up first. Councillor Report.
Thank you, Mayor Watson. Through you, I'd like to make a motion to receive this.
Motion to receive. Does anyone want to second that?
I'll second it.
Deputy Mayor Nelson, any discussion on the motion? Councillor Johnson, I know you had your mic
I
on
would
too.
like to support it too.
Okay. Councillor Watt.
I would too, there's been a lot of controversy back and forth of, you know, what it does, and people getting up and going to work in the dark and coming home in the dark. And then there was the comment in there, but you know, being eaten with New York City, kind of like that, which kind of throws everything off on the eastern seaboard here, kind of like that. So I would really like to support it, to tell you the truth.
Okay, so we've got a motion on the floor just to receive it. We will call the vote on that and then see where it goes from here. So all in favor? So that motion fails. Councillor Ward, motion to receive and support. I assumed you would, Councillor Johnston. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion in fairness?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, all in favor?
Sorry.
I knew you were going on. And that motion carries. Thank you very much. On to item 13, we got two bylaws to address. That's 13.2. So to appoint building officials, that's the correct assertion, of the Building Code Act for the corporation. We'll just deal with this one first. Councillor Ward. Motion to approve.
Yes.
And Councillor Vervoort, I saw your hand go up. Any discussion on that? All in favor? That motion carries. And then on to the amendment to user fee and charges bylaw. Madam Clerk, we'll speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The bylaw that's before you, 2025-19, is to amend our user fees and charges bylaw. In the report, council had approved earlier this evening that had been recommended by the committee of the whole at their previous meetings to open and improve road allowances. Part of that report was the addition of fees for this program, so a deposit system and an application fee. But for us to be able to charge those and collect on them, they do need to be part of our fees and charges bylaw. So this is updating the bylaws so that they come into effect.
Okay, thank you. Kevin Van
I'll so move the recommendation, or sorry, the bylaw, sorry.
Anyone want to second that? Councillor Johnston, in discussion? All in favor? That motion carries. That's it for bylaws, no reports. We do have a notice of motion on the agenda. There's no debate or we're not moving that. It's just there for information's sake, and that will come forward again at our next council meeting. Are there any other notices of motion? Just calling for that in case there's anything from council off the floor.
Not a motion, to the church, not a, no, it's a motion. But one thing I'd like to see done down the road here very soon is that we have a road tour. Especially with the roads, the way they are and all the construction that's been done along the roads. I think we should go through the areas and see that. So, I'd just like to bring it forward. It's scheduled.
All right. We could actually put that in as a notice of motion. That the staff schedule and arrange a road tour.
You just bring our.
Just let us know.
Whatever.
Do you want to make that?
If you need a motion, yes, I'll deal with you first.
No, there's nothing to deal with.
Oh, yeah, because it's just.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion that we, schedule a road tour in the near future. Our road to be conditioned and all through the construction of this application store.
Okay. And then for that, so we're not, because this is a notice of motion, we're not gonna be looking to debate it, but we do need a seconder to get it on the docket, or it's just a notice? No, it's just a notice. That's right. And then they'll look, we can discuss next meeting. Great, thank you. Any other notices of motion? All right, moving on to announcements, which I thought is why you were looking to speak, Councillor Johnston, but Councillor Watts got his hand up, so let's do that first.
All right, thank you very much. Dear Madam Mayor, this May is the 25th anniversary of the Millennium Garden just beside the town hall here. And I mean, it'd be nice to put something up, but right now it's kind of short notice right now, but it'd be nice to just have some kind of acknowledgement on it. But at that time, so I'm told, there was a time capsule buried, but nobody knows where it is. So if there's anybody out there that's watching or listening or anything like that, that may have some inclination as to where this was buried, please come forward and let staff know or let a council member know. I very much appreciate that. And thank you, Don, for bringing that up.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Johnston, announcements?
Yeah, I just want to make an announcement to anybody who's interested. This Sunday is Mother's Day, so everybody listening, and happy Mother's Day this. But we are having, our Knights of Columbus is having a breakfast over in Douro, which we do at the first of every month, but this month it's going to be in Mother's Day. So we are all entitled to, we'd like to see many mothers come out. It's a free breakfast for the mothers, put on by our Knights of Columbus, which is Sunday from 9 to 12. This Sunday at the, across from the St. Joseph Church, the hall there. Anybody like to come and we appreciate seeing this.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any other announcements? I will just call out, on Easter weekend, we had the Easter egg hunt in the Douro North Park. Councillor Johnson, thank you for attending. I too was there, but particularly thank you to our staff for holding a wonderful event. Lots of families and kids and parents and grandparents approached me after the event and were very heartfelt in their appreciation that the township does this and brings the community together. And Councillor Johnson, I'm sure you had similar
And the
conversations.
rain held off,
And the rain held off. We put a good word in.
packing up the third grade.
Exactly. So thank you to our recreation staff for giving up their Saturday morning to make that happen, year after year. And it's a treasure in our community. We have no closed session, so just our confirming bylaw. Deputy Mayor Nelson, seconded by Councillor Watt. All in favor? That motion carries. Our next regular council meeting is on May 20th. Mark your calendars because that is right after the long weekend. And then simply a motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor.